Hello, my name is Jen and welcome to my lady den. Thank you, Graham, for suggesting the name. I work under the imprint of Typochondriacs and this is my contribution to the UE Book and Print Summer Festival. Thank you so much for inviting me to take part and I hope you enjoy. For once, timing was with me and the work on converting what was once a garage was well underway when lockdown was instigated. The main structural changes and installation work were complete, thank you Roddy and Tom. The mice had finally complied with the eviction notice, the spiders and I have had to come to an understanding, and all that was left was to paint, move in and begin the small task of sorting through a lifetime's accumulation of printing related stuff to a point where I could actually start using it. My Farley proofing press, typewriter and many of the blocks were gathered from my time at Chelsea. Much of my other equipment came from time-served or hobby printers I met whilst the compositor at Robert Snell's Printing Works. All of these were gifted with a caveat that I provide a good home and, more importantly, that it would be used. A lot of my wooden type came from Eric Dean. He ran Bishops and Sons in Edinburgh. It is type that is typical of a small job in printers. Mostly sans serif, nothing too quirky, and there seems to be a strange lack of the letter C in some of the fonts. Most of it came from Stevenson and Blake, but there are also bits from Miller and Richard. It is still dirty, the stubborn cementation a constant reminder that they were designed to be used. I love the homemade shed solutions to storage I've inherited, from the wobbly but charming type racks to the never-ending reuse of matchboxes and tins. All of these things are repurposed to be of useful use. Their very tactile nature embodies meaning and provides for me tangible links to my practice, the print process and a traditional past. The most recent addition is this Arab. It had been used for about 30 years to print balsa wood airplane kits, but the future is laser cutting, so it had become redundant in its former Wigan home. It needs a bit of attention and is missing the springs, but it does work. It is Josiah Wade's foolscap model, chase size 13 by 9 inches in old money, and will be perfect for printing the book arts projects I have planned. These presses were perfect for small jobbing printers. They were affordable, cheap to run and easy to use. An ability to pat your head at the same time as rubbing your tummy was often the only skill a person needed to become an apprentice printer. Now I have the space, I can be less domestic in my printing ambitions. I'm still away from getting a Vandercook, but this is perfect for just now. It is proper old school with no guards, so I have to pay attention when printing to ensure I don't come a cropper. Also, I'm hoping the treadling will count towards some of my 10,000 steps. I discovered Letterpress while studying at Chelsea School of Art. We were thrown as wet behind the ears graphic students into the case room, and for me it was love at first sight. I was completely seduced by the metal and wood, the terminology, the smell and the touch. I have always loved language. I cannot remember a time when I couldn't read, and the setting stick became a more natural extension of my thinking hand than a pencil ever could. It spoke to my love for the shape of letters and the meaning of words that appeared when they were placed together. It gave name to my fascination, typography, and I became enchanted with the alchemy of print. So, although the early part of lockdown was a shift and sort exercise, I found the closer I got to opening the ink, the more tentative I became about doing it. I realised that I needed something to get me started, and I decided to take part in this year's 100 Days Project Scotland. At the time of filming, we were about halfway through. I wanted to use this as a way to connect with people physically from a distance whilst reducing my hoard of the keep it just in case. My contribution is titled Feeding Off the Scraps, Sharing the Spoils. I am taking inspiration from my go-to boys, Kurt Schwitters and H.N. Workman, and their respective approaches to adversity productions. Use what you have, make what you can, with what you know best. For them, and also Rauschenberg, the make do and reuse was often the only solution, and it is good to be reminded of how necessity is often the mother of creation. There is probably a subconscious homage to Onkwara in these two. I was also incredibly fortunate to be at a symposium in February where John Furnival was talking about his work. What an amazing man! So refreshingly pragmatic about his motivations in his practice. If it's printed and it looks good, use it, has become a mantra in his honour. Every day I make 2 postcards which are repurposed from scraps, offcuts and many of the unresolved ideas I have gathered up over the years. The limited time manages the overthinking, and I'm enjoying the simplicity of responding to and with the materials I have. I customise and adapt by using some other commercially obsolete assistants, Letterpress and the typewriter to realise these pieces, and of course any excuse to get out the rubber stamps is a bonus. Some are more successful than others, but I am ignoring any desire to edit. I am managing my bouts of constructivism, and I hope people who know me well will notice that not everything is an 032 red. They are what they are, and that is enough. This is a liberation of sorts for me. One postcard I keep, and the other I post. The chances are, if I know you well enough to have your address, one will find, or has already found its way to you. This has limbered me up to make other work to send out and keep connected. Much of my practice involves a call and response, and so making pieces to post has been very much part of my lockdown process. The pocket accordion became the framework for a recent UE Artist Book Club mail art piece, and along with my instructional postcards are featured in the current United in Isolation online exhibition. Heidi Kyle's The Art of the Fold is a current point of reference for me. The folded structures give possibility beyond the codex as containers of ideas. I want to strive to make work that encourages a more physical engagement. I want to reward those brave enough to pick up and play. There is little place for the finger blind here, as I want to curate experiences where the haptic can be truly happy. I am now playing with Kyle's variation on a flag book for my latest piece. Means of production intrigue me. I have always embraced the DIY, and I like being in control of the whole process from start to finish. Concept, context, materials, format, technology, construction all have their say. The thing I love about printmaking for books is that you have to start somewhere, but it becomes magical if you have no prescribed idea of how it should end. I'm at the point with this book where I need to rethink the printing and lean into the limitations of the press and my available type. It is good to work things to a point, to stop and then step back from it, look at it sideways, maybe even rush it from behind. There is something quite exhilarating in the not knowing. and I am pleased that I have had time to remember that. As obvious as it sounds, I realise that what I do is what I should be doing. I really appreciate the way that this physical space is allowing me to bring my practice in from the edges of my life. This has always been my way to make art, but it took doing the MA print course to cleave the proper headspace and give me the confidence to validate that thinking into the doing and the making. I am starting to apply the lessons learned. I've been to art school twice now and still not managed to start a punk band, but I'm happy to channel my inner vice versa in other inkier ways. Hopefully by the time you see this, things will be easing us back into the world, and I would love to do this with the help of my art cart. It had a wonderful debut at the MA Degree Show last year and a very successful outing to Portobello's Art Walk Porty, so I'm really keen to go out and do more, possibly at a venue near you. So here's to seeing you all in the new normal, and remember, in the meantime, keep it inky.